Hail Mary, stock market. Oh, man. Woo!
Good morning, everybody. I bet y'all thought Jeremy was going to be on this stream. Oh, well. Anyway, welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. We have a special guest today. His name is it Jacob?
Jacob. It's Jacob.
Jacobe? Weaker man. Jobe. Anyway, welcome, buddy. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Why are you on my channel?
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm kind of in the same boat as you right now, just getting railed by the market. But that's not why I'm here today. I'll quickly introduce myself. We'll get past that and we'll get on to what's important, how we're going to help you guys today. I'm Jacob, bachelor's degree, business management, blah, 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 heavily studied finance, stocks and equities and valuation. More importantly, towards the final end of my studies, I focus specifically on stock markets and how investors relate to stock markets, specifically through social media, which became a very interesting topic because concerning when I started that part of my research, it was at the height of GME, which I couldn't have asked for a friggin' better time. And yeah, currently I work in the Canadian finance industry. I'm CSA license, which is kind of like a Series 7 or 6 and all that. It's just a little bit more complicated, a little more in-depth here in Canada. And as well as I'm also a part-time research associate for a couple firms in Canada.
That's awesome. So you actually work in the industry. You're not just some random person on YouTube.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm not representing my company today, obviously. But if you go onto my LinkedIn, you click me up, Jacob Ross, spelled with an E at the end. You can see I work for Questrade. It's essentially Canada's Robinhood, the largest, maybe the or the second largest broker in Canada. And I work in the operations department there. So I can see everything. And it's very, very interesting being able to see literally everything in real time, how people are reacting, what people are buying or selling. And I'm very fortunate to be in that position, and it helps not only my own investing, but then when I'm talking with other people, I can kind of see how people actually think. People bullshit online. What they do, I actually know.
So are you insider trading because you have all this insider?
No, I can't. They watch us like crazy. I have to have a Questrade account. I have to, my trades have to be authorized. It's a lot of like big brother watching.
But is the temptation there?
Oh, definitely. Like you see people who are like CEOs of these like shill mining companies. Like I can see exactly when they dump all their stock. I could see when they're buying, when they're selling, what options. It's very interesting seeing Canadian finance YouTubers who use Questrade. I can see everything. I
know. Man, I wish you could tell me all the juicy details.
Yeah,
I know.
I wish I could Robinhood. I wish I worked at Robinhood because then I would like, oh man, Jeremy, man, like foo would have it.
Well, I don't know. I think Jeremy only uses Fidelity, right?
Yeah, exactly. He might be using that, but hey, I guess it's just good to see the broader finance sphere in America. What they're doing would be pretty powerful to cut through a lot of that bullshit.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Like there's so much BS, and it all goes on behind the scenes. And my suspicion is, and I'm sure you can confirm this, is most like mining CEOs or freaking scammer YouTubers, they buy a position in the stock, they hype it up on their channel. And then once the stock elevates, they claim they're geniuses because the stock went up right after they talked about it. And then they go ahead and sell it. That is my suspicion,
yeah.
But maybe I'm full of crap.
Yeah, it's actually half and half. So, and that's going to come down to just because they're a finance guru and just because they were in the know doesn't mean that they end up selling. So half the people do end up dumping, of course, when they talk about it or when they release their content. The other guys are just like everybody else. They hold it until it goes down into the ground. And I think that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today, about the psychology of someone when they're investing and how that relates to social media, especially creators.
Yeah, so you sent me a thesis paper. Now, I admit, I didn't read the whole thing because it was like,
long.
I skimmed it. So if you can kind of summarize like what you wrote, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so what I did, I thought to myself, hey, let's look at all the information in the market. Let's read all the theoretics on economics and investor psychology and behavior. Let's relate that to social media, because a lot of these studies, these amazing studies, if you get a chance to ever read them, again, they're like 100 freaking pages long, not that exciting, not that approachable. And they're done in like the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s. And there's a few that have come out around 2010, 2015, but none, aggregate all the information, think of a hypothesis and then study something in a modern 2020 type of stock market world with all people like Jeremy Financial or um, Graham Stephan, blah blah blah, all the rest. And I looked at how, if a person is influenced by social media, what's that degree that they're going to be influenced, and how's that then going to relate to their stock trading? Are they going to be trading more frequently? Are they going to be trading higher risk assets? And then I studied that. So then I took surveys of a couple hundred people all throughout Canada, America, Europe, all within different ages, and then I built a model. And I found that there's three key things that affect a person's investing behavior, and I found a couple moderating variables on that behavior as well. And to sum it up, if you want to if you want to just skip everything and not listen to us today, what I found is, and it's kind of obvious, the more you are influenced by social media and the more hours you consume social media as an investor, the higher your frequency is to trade, and the higher your statistical likelihood to buy risky assets. Makes sense.
Sorry, my internet just crapped out.
Oh, damn.
I was like, is it me or him? Okay, so I do have a question, and it's actually a guess. The most likely group of people that are going to trade and gamble are young men.
Yes.
Okay.
Hands down. Hands down. Ages of 18 to around 30, way higher chance of trading. And especially the more they use social media, the more likely they are to trade, the more trades that they make. And what's interesting is that even if someone becomes older, age is a moderating factor. The older someone becomes, the wiser they become, or the less susceptible they become to social media, and the less risk they're already willing to take on. So the older a person is, the less likely they are to trade frequently. But if they're a heavy social media user, they're just as likely to trade as much as someone who's younger. So they're just as much of a degenerate, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, Stockmo is a perfect example, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on social media all the time. Not that we have to get into him, but so another question I have is, I always hear that women are better investors, and it kind of makes sense because they're not as likely to take massive, stupid, degenerate risks, and they basically just buy and hold. Has your research shown that women are much better investors than men?
Yes. Yeah, overwhelmingly. I had only, like, of my participants, only 10% were women, which kind of is already, reflective of the amount of women who are online talking about stocks and interested in talking about stocks. I'm sure by your YouTube analytics, it's primarily men. Makes sense. Not a lot of women care to do any of this because they're, like you said, they're less risk takers. They just buy and hold. I mean, they're worrying about other things like doing the dishes. No, I'm kidding. I know this is a very laid back channel. Yeah, I know this is a very laid back channel. So we're going to be cracking some jokes today. And yeah, women are more boring investors, and that means they most likely make more money.
Yeah. So we're talking about YouTube analytics. So number one, of course, my channel. I don't think I appeal to many women with the screaming and all the crap that I do. I'm sure some women love my hot body, obviously, but it's like 95% or more male that watch my videos. So, and I don't know what it's like for other channels. I mean, potentially it could be, maybe it'll be a little bit different for other channels, but I've noticed like the vast majority of people that comment on my channel and on other channels are all men. So it definitely is a young male problem. And like you said, if you use a lot of social media, it's, even for older men. So when you talk about social media, like where's this information coming from? Like where do these people go to actually get information? Is it YouTube? Is it Twitter? Like what did you notice was a big part of the whole social media stock thing?
Yeah, so there's two main categories of social media in relation to investing. The first area is like article based slash chat room, where there's a lot of interaction with people talking to one another, and that's more like online communication within these like echo chambers. And that's where, like big places are, I don't know, Yahoo Finance comments, which if you're going there, like uh, other places would be like Alpha Finance. There's a couple places here in Canada, Reddit, Google articles, Seeking Alpha, and then people talking within those articles. And then the other biggest area is more recognized social media, YouTube, Twitter. Those YouTube especially, where it has some of the highest engagement of people talking about stocks, mainly because they're watching somebody, and we're dumb monkeys, and moving images interest us. So a lot of these investors that I studied were heavily on YouTube. And lastly, the last kind of component, which is relatively new really only over the past 2 years, is Discord communities. That is gigantic, where you have these people who will buy a stock, join a Discord community because there's other like-minded people who also bought those stocks or have that other that type of growth investing mindset, and it just becomes like a jack-off session of people hyping each other up over and over and over again, and it's in a
Called
echo
a
chamber.
circle jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too is it's Discord, which obviously it's like a cult. Like you join the Discord and you go on there, and I've heard a lot from a lot of different people. If you don't agree on these Discords, these little private Discords, like you get freaking banned. So it literally is a massive echo chamber. And of course, it's usually orchestrated by the creator of the Discord that is making all the freaking money. And I've also noticed there's Telegram. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I have. That's another big one. That's really big in Russia too.
Oh, Russia.
Yes.
So what else did you learn from your research?
Yeah, so tons of stuff. It was a full 9.5 months of dragging through research papers. For my final year of school, I became an international student. I went to Ireland, and that was during the heart of the pandemic. So I'm going to Europe, which is kind of cool, but it's during the heart of the pandemic. So I'm locked inside my room all day long, reading these papers. And it's like, oh my God, you can lose your mind. But I'll summarize my 9-month life into 3 main points for you guys today. What you got to know. What are your big takeaways? The 3 big takeaways are, as an investor, this is what's going to influence you the most. And it's going to explain why we are all irrational investors and why most likely just buying VT is your best bet. The first thing is attention. So you can only buy what you know exists. That sounds kind of intuitive. As an investor, you can only buy things that you know exists. And how that happens is something catches your attention. And when something catches your attention, you're then way more likely to buy it because you know it exists. Because unlike big institutions can both buy and sell anything. You can only sell what you already own, unless you're doing options or contracts. But you can only sell what you already own, which means you can only buy what you only hear about. So that's kind of the first big thing. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it, but attention, that's the first big factor. The second thing is confidence. So you're going to be seeking out information in the world. You're going to be, typing in, looking for Jeremy Lafufu. You're going to find him. You're going to find his information, and his information is going to give you confidence. And that's what's going to then make you actually act and buy a stock or sell a stock, is your confidence in your information. And our information as investors, there's errors in it. We have our own biases. We have our own issues. We think that, just because something's a growth stock, that it must be good.
Growth by oath.
Yeah, growth by oath. But just because you think that, you're giving yourself false confidence. We think we know everything, but we don't. And the data shows that. The last point is validation or confirmation. So after you buy something and after you hold it, you're then going to give yourself validation for making this purchase. This is exactly like marketing for product marketing. So if you ever study marketing and there's like a sales funnel and they figure out the buyer's journey, as marketers call it, there's validation after you buy something. So you're then going to seek out more information, which makes you feel good inside about your purchase, or makes you feel confident, again, going back to that second factor, that what you bought or what you believe in works. And that's where we get, fandom, fanboy stuff kind of coming into it, and people, just aggregating around these content creators, propping them up and just saying, like, go with stock XYZ, because they want to feel validated in what they bought. And if it continues to go down in price, they just stay harder and longer with that stock, because it then also becomes a part of their identity. Like if you're someone who loves Tesla, well, it's probably not just because you want to make a lot of money. Maybe you believe in the future. Maybe you believe in, that Teslas are going to be, good for the environment. That becomes a little bit of your persona, that you're part of this like upper class, above the plebs, like, the future, or you're going to make a lot of money. That becomes a little bit of your identity. And I think we see that kind of speak, or that type of mentality, on Reddit, on YouTube comments, or on Discord communities. So those are the three big things that are going to impact your investing journey, your investing behavior. And because of all that, just then accept the fact that we're all monkeys who can't be trusted, and buy VT.
There you go. I love that. Now, speaking on that last point where you're talking about how people, they basically, keep seeking validation, and they're, they just double down, and they think they're, in this special group that's smarter than everybody else. You would not believe, and I don't know how long you've been watching my videos, but when I first started, growing my channel a little bit, I started talking about meme stocks, because I noticed like nobody wants to hear about VT. It's boring, blah, blah, blah. I get it. So I started talking about meme stocks, AMC, blah, 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 and basically saying they were trash. And you would not believe the amount of freaking like anger and hate and threats that I received. Like, it was out of control. I had one video talking about AMC and Trey's Trades, who's a total freaking scammer. Hold on, let me change my freaking internet. Jesus Christ.
Man. Speaking of internet, just last week here in Canada, Rogers Network, which is Canada's largest internet provider, went down for an entire day. So half the country didn't have internet for a full day.
Yeah, what pisses me off? My freaking router is literally right below me, like in my garage.
Oh, I thought you were saying like in my balls. That's what you're...
Yeah. I mean, they are big enough to hold a router. But,
yeah.
So I don't know, but I mean, what was I saying? So anyway, yeah, there is a very cult-like following, and it really disturbs me that these people, they'll buy these stocks and they'll just keep going down and down and down and down, and they will not give up. Now, when you were interviewing these people, did you ever ask them like, hey, have you noticed that maybe you were wrong and maybe you should probably not keep buying these stocks? And did they give you some kind of explanation about why they keep doubling down? Like, what was their logic behind that?
Yeah, so I didn't ask that type of question, mainly because it could be a reason, it could be a point of conflict for them not wanting to continue with the survey. You don't want to challenge your participant and make them dissuaded to not fill it out. So I didn't ask those kinds of questions, but I did at the very end leave a open paragraph section where they could tell me basically everything they thought about social media, what they thought about meme stocks. And half the people, honestly, it was really weird. Half the people were honest with themselves, and they say, I'm buying shit that I probably shouldn't be buying, and social media is making me do things that I shouldn't be doing, which I was shocked that people were, I guess, very like honest about that. Other people were just like balls to the wall. Nope, social media is amazing. Like, all these content creators are helping me find stocks I would have never heard of before. Going back to that first principle of attention, they wouldn't have known about those stocks because they wouldn't have bought them in the first place. And then other people were saying like, yeah, social media, these creators make me do diligent research and such. But when I surveyed them, I asked a question: how many hours a week do you spend reading financial statements? Most of them said none. So, and I mean, I think that's kind of a common human behavior. We like to think ourselves as good and great and above the fray, but a lot of us are actually just like everybody else, sadly, which is okay.
I mean, but a lot of people just want to get rich super quick, and obviously the hilarious thing is the faster you want to get rich, the more likely you are to lose a lot of your money. Another thing I've noticed is, did a lot of people mention Tesla when you were interviewing them? Because Tesla seems like the one stock that all these clowns bought that just rocketed to the moon and became an insane bubble, in my opinion. Did a lot of those guys reference Tesla and say, well, I hopefully, this stock that I buy is going to be the next Tesla?
They did. Yeah. I had a section there where they could list the common investments that they would make, the different stocks and the investment types. Tesla, number one at the list. And then those same people who were, shouting how much they love Tesla were also then more likely to own cryptocurrency. We're more likely to do options trading. So I didn't really fully research this or prove it, but I think the riskier type of stock a person buys is then also there's more likely to also invest in cryptocurrencies and have other risk assets. And interesting, those people are more likely to have more brokerage accounts, which I thought was really interesting. And in my personal life, in my job, I could tell you without certain, Tesla is the number one bought and traded thing, hands down. I can tell you.
You see people that this is why I hate Tesla so much.
Yeah.
People are like, why do you hate Tesla, bro? It's the future. I think Tesla is like the main reason that YouTube is full of frauds. And I think it's the main reason that all these people are gambling and, losing all their money. It's because they saw that one stock, that stupid stock, went up so much, and they think that can be replicated over and over again. And I mean, I haven't done like enough research into, the history of stocks, but it seems to me that Tesla was one of the fastest appreciating stocks maybe ever in history. I mean, I'm sure there were other ones out there, but it was definitely one of those like 1 in a million stocks that if you bought it, you got extremely lucky, but most likely you're not going to ever find that again. So that's the source of my hatred.
Yeah. The average stock only goes up 5 to 8% year over year historically. So, and people like bitch and complain like, oh, only 5%, only 7%. It's like, that's kind of the norm around here. We're living in very strange times right now. This market cycle is very, very strange market. It doesn't at all really work with a lot of the economic theory. But when that's on a short time scale, but when you move out onto a larger time scale, there's a lot of things that explain why what's happening is happening. And then later, that's where I'm going to talk a little bit more about VT, and I'm going to challenge you on VT a little bit. Even though VT is like amazing, I'm going to challenge you on it.
I'm always willing to be challenged because, I mean, every challenge I get on VT is simply this. It has underperformed QQQ. I know. It's underperformed VTI. I know. But we'll definitely get into that. Another thing I noticed is like, speaking about the returns, like when people talk about VT, they're like, yeah, if you factor in reinvested dividends, it's only returned like 9% compounded over the last 10 years. It's like, yeah, that's pretty freaking good. You basically double your money in like 8 years. That's not that bad. But people, they have that whole Tesla mentality, and they don't understand that that's actually legitimate. That's actually normal. Whereas Tesla is abnormal. And something else people don't notice about markets is that markets don't go up at a steady like 8 or 10% every year. They're extremely choppy. They may go up 30% one year, down 40% the next year. So what a lot of these people are doing is they're buying into this massive, insane market that we've had. And what they don't understand is now we're going into one of our course corrections where, the market could drop massively. So that's why I always say just dollar cost average. Don't worry about the market. And because if you try to time it or you play this game of buying at the top, you're going to lose all your freaking money, as we've seen with all these YouTubers.
Yeah.
So tell us more about your job. I want to hear more like degenerate stories, whatever you can actually talk about.
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is the transferring of day-to-day stocks and equities between accounts, working with margin, calculating people's margin. If they get in a margin call, dealing with that. What's interesting here in Canada, we have a tax-free savings account. Which is kind of similar to some of your tax advantage accounts in America. And I handle a lot of the transfers between margin accounts to registered accounts. And that's interesting because that's people's highest conviction stocks because they're moving it into their tax advantage account, which they can never really take out unless they get hit with a big penalty. So I'm seeing what people really believe in, what they're putting their life into. And I'm seeing people getting just absolutely destroyed on stocks. Here specifically in Canada, the energy sector is very popular. Same with the financial sector. We don't have as many tech growth companies. So a lot of people are putting all their money into like one mining stock, and it's just decimated. Someone loses 300K. I'm seeing people with corporate accounts who link their business to their stock account, and they're losing $1 million on margin. It's heartbreaking. I see the opposite. For every 10 people, 10 degenerates getting wrecked, I see that one who did a YOLO call on an option and made $500,000. It's insane.
So that's the ratio. Is it roughly like 10% get, good
100 to
returns
1.
100 to 1? Oh, God.
Yeah.
So what? Basically, 1% of people get lucky, and the other 99 lose it all.
Yeah. And then the other vast majority of people are just very boring ETF investors playing it super safe, buying a little bit of America, Canada, international markets. I could see over the years, they're a very standard investor, just, buying what they can using ETFs. They might spice it up a little bit using a little part of their portfolio to buy some individual stocks. There's also those people too. It's a very wide breadth of clients.
So have you noticed like a huge drop off in margin? Like I know that margin is freaking crazy. Okay.
Yeah. A big drop in people utilizing margin, and then also a big drop in trades. So just the sheer number of trades being taken. And that's just not in the Canadian market. That's also, if you read Robinhood and, why their stock keeps getting cratered is because less and less people are trading on their platform.
So, okay. So you said you work at it's basically the Robinhood of Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think because when I look at Robinhood in the United States, I think it's a dead company. I think it only flourished because of the meme market. Do you have other options, or do you have more appeals to long-term investors that would, potentially keep your company sustainable? Because I don't see Robinhood lasting in a bear market.
Yeah. So I use that comparison of Questrade is like a Robinhood, but it's very different. It's very, very different. So a lot of Robinhood's, dependency for their revenue is payment for order flow. Here in Canada, that's not allowed. That's banned. So Questrade is much more of just a cheap discount broker for you to buy your own investments. And we don't have any of the risks that Robinhood does. Questrade also offers wealth management and planning. We offer a lot of other different services. I'm not going to sell them here, but we're in an extremely strong position. And I don't even they're not even a public company. I can't even own their stock. So there's really no point in me sucking their dick and saying that they're going to be fine. Other than
this guy paid me $1,000 so he could show Questrade.
Use any company you want. I mean, here in Canada, we're fortunate enough. There's a ton of different options. There's much higher regulation, much less bullshit than in America, where people could just free reign, do whatever the fuck they want, and fuck over their clients. Nah, that doesn't fly here in Canada. There's a lot of rules and a lot of protections for clients. And if you're a Canadian, do whatever you want to do, man. I mean, go to the big banks, go to a different discount broker, do what works best for you. I can't speak to if you're an American, which I'm guessing is 99% of this audience. But just, invest in what you want to invest in. You pick a platform where it's going to be cheap.
Yeah, see, I thought in America we had these securities laws that, protected investors and kind of went after scammers. But apparently after watching YouTube for a couple of days, I was totally wrong about that. Or if the laws are there, nobody's doing anything about it. So it's definitely a disaster down here. And I'm surprised the government hasn't cracked down a lot more than they should be.
Yeah, no, it's super stringent here. Even doing advertisements in your videos promoting Canadian exchanges, there's a lot of rules with that, and things are much more transparent. And that's also the same in Europe.
Yeah, well, America's always kind of have that wild west kind of mentality. I mean, that's just how it is here, But sometimes it has advantages. But sometimes it's just it pisses me off. So, do you guys offer crypto trading on your platform?
No.
I like it. See, I like this guy. Okay. So, what else are we going to talk about? Do you have anything else about your research or about your company? Have you seen what is the most degenerate stock or scenario that you ever saw on your platform? If you can talk about it.
The most degenerate. It's more like fraud. So people using their wives' names to do trading. When that way they can claim the tax on their for their wife when they were the ones doing the trading. Those kinds of things can pop up. But the most degenerate, Probably just seeing YOLO calls of people buying options with like a couple days to expiration, and they put a lot of money down, and then it's way out of the money options. Those are the biggest like things that I see.
Okay, so like, okay, yeah. I mean that happens.
Yeah.
That definitely happened like last year with AMC and all that stuff. But
Yep.
I feel like that's hopefully starting to die down.
Nope.
Maybe. No.
No. I mean, the sheer volume of it happening is less, but the ratios of people doing it stays the same.
Yeah, and I always wonder, it's like, how much money do you clowns have to freaking lose before you finally realize that you shouldn't be doing this? And honestly, that tells me that we're still in a bubble because, you know, one of the biggest indicators of a stock market bubble is all these retail people flooding in and gambling and, you know, losing all their money. So me personally, I think the global stock markets have a lot more to fall, but we'll see.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go to the big one. I want you to challenge me on VT.
Yeah. So let me preference this and say VT for 99.9% of you is amazing. It's a sensible investment. It's amazing. I'm not challenging VT saying it's bad in any way. It's excellent. What I'm going to try to do today is take your mind and push it a little bit further using economic theory. And I'm going to put some food for thought in your brain about VT. It's something called factor investing. Have you ever heard that term?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very interesting. It's very theoretical. And I'm going to keep it super simple. I guess basically to kind of to start this conversation off, do you believe or do you know of the efficient market hypothesis?
Yeah. So in summary, it basically means that
Tell
all
the
stock
audience.
prices reflect like all known information.
Yes. And then there's the inefficient market theory, which is that not all stocks reflect, perfect information. And for a long, long time, there's been many models that came out in the 1960s. They came up with the CAPM model to explain how, one manager could get 10% one year and another portfolio manager could get 12% one year. That model was used to explain the 2% alpha of that difference. And the theory went that, markets are efficient by VT, just by the broad market. You can't beat it. But there were managers who were still beating the market somehow. And people thought, oh, well, he's just a good investor, or she is just a good stock picker. And then in the 1980s, it was discovered that, hey, actually, some investors are beating the market consistently. Why? I thought the market was efficient. Doesn't this mean that the market is inefficient? And then in the 1990s, it was discovered there are things called factor premiums, which explain why some investors are making more money than others. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah. So like from my understanding, like a factor is like, either, large, small, mid cap or, value growth blend, whatever.
Yep.
And basically the whole point is, like the price of a small cap stock, for example, because there's more risk inherent in the small cap stocks, if you buy it, you do have higher expected returns because of the inherent risk, and the price reflects that. That's kind of my understanding of the whole thing.
Yeah, totally, 100%. And that kind of is why I think you buy VT. So you have a breadth of everything in the market, right? You have a little bit of everything. You have the whole market.
Well, you have the whole world, but it's very tilted towards large cap stocks, obviously, because it's a market cap weighted index. So if you want if you want small cap exposure, you're getting some small caps, but they're a very small percentage of VT.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you said right there, market weighted. That is the only problem with VT that puts you at a mathematical statistical disadvantage to making money in the stock market because it is market weighted.
Disadvantage to who?
Disadvantage to yourself, like just to what you would be making by taking on all risk premiums in the market. Because when you use a market weighted cap, like you said, you're tilting yourself towards the largest companies. And for those who don't know what market cap weighted means, it means, if you're X% of the market in terms of capitalization, that's the percentage you're attributed to in the portfolio. So if you're like 3% of the entire world economy, you're 3% of the portfolio kind of thing. What that leaves out is the other factor premiums. And those factor premiums, that's how it is explaining why some investors are making more than others. For the longest time, we thought, oh, they're just a good stock picker. They're getting alpha. No, it's actually because they were using these other premiums, which we didn't know how to measure. The actual model itself, the Kappa model, was flawed. And you could read all these many in-depth research papers have been written about this, and it's been proven. Like it's not up for debate. The other 1/3 of unexplained returns. So why someone who buys VT versus someone who buys the S&P 500, why that S&P 500 ETF is getting 1 or 2% more than VT right now, is explained by these other factors. And 2 of the other factors I'm going to talk about, because there's 5 in total, but we'll just go over the 3-factor model. The first one, like you said, is large cap, so just the overall market. The other one you said was small cap, and the last one is value. And if you lean on those other 2 factors, small and value, you will statistically, over a long-term period, make about 1 to 2% more than VT. Statistically, over like a 25 to 50-year period.
Well, here's my criticism of that. Like,
yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it makes sense to buy, obviously value, I think in the long run is superior because you're actually buying good companies at a good price instead of being a clown and buying growth stocks. My one criticism is if everybody knows this, right? It's been proven, everybody knows it's true. Wouldn't that elevate the prices of a lot of those stocks that are considered value? Because now that everybody knows, oh, if I just buy these stocks, I can beat the market. Wouldn't that have some kind of distorting effect and basically wash it out? That's what happens throughout. Like every time somebody discovers something new that beats the market, everybody knows about it. Eventually they find out about it. And because there's so much buying pressure on those individual stocks, that actually just washes out the whole, superior return effect.
Yeah, that's explained because of small cap and value cap stocks are inefficiently priced versus large cap stocks are efficiently priced. So VT is pretty efficiently priced. Everything that's within it is very efficient, meaning all information is known, the price is there, but there's always that problem. I mean, this is the debate between our markets efficient, our markets inefficient. The answer is there kind of is no answer. Some stocks are efficient, all information is known because they're large cap. Small cap and value cap, there's always that friction there of inefficiencies of people not reading all the research of, because they're small little shitty companies sometimes. The reports aren't being written and that information isn't then being disseminated into the environment, which then isn't affecting trading. So factor investing kind of marries the 2 thoughts of inefficiency versus an efficient market. And it doesn't dissuade VT. Buying VT is amazing. It's just that there might be a further step. We could push one more barrier maybe and hold VT, hold like 90% VT, and then hold like 10% of a combination of value and small cap companies, generally through the screening of profitability. So that's one important thing. You want to screen for profitable small caps and profitable value caps. And according to the data, like you get 1 or 2% more, which is insane. These explain why right now VT is underperforming the market compared to QQQ, compared to SPY. It explains that, and it says like, yeah, in the short term, it's we're gonna get beat, but in the long term, VT's the turtle. It will catch up and it will pass you, which is food for thought for you. A YouTuber who I really like, and he's also a Canadian YouTuber. His name is Ben Felix. Don't know if you've heard of him. He's an MBA portfolio manager. This guy is the shit. Like this guy knows his stuff, and he goes into detail on this. And I think you'd get a kick out of it, Strongman. You should probably rate his channel as well. He is unbiased, a god of empirical research, and he aggregates all this really boring information, which I don't have time to read. I don't care to read it. He gives it in a nice presented video, and he's accredited. He's an MBA CFA portfolio manager. Like, can't get any better than that.
Yeah, but here's the other problem, okay? Like, you could be 100% right. I'm not disputing that, or Ben could be 100% right. And I did the factor thing, like maybe about 2 years ago. It's like, oh, maybe I'll do, 80% VT, 10% REITs, and 10% small cap value. I did all that. But here's what happened. I consistently kept checking my portfolio, and I kept thinking about it and worrying about it because, well, number one, I was concerned that I was tilted too much towards the United States. And the more ETFs that you have in your portfolio, the more likely you are to like, constantly think about your weightings, or you're more likely to overweight a certain country or a certain, part of the market. So I kept thinking about it and it was always in my head. And I was always tempted to like, maybe reallocate, maybe trade, blah, 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 blah. Even though VT may underperform the portfolio that you're talking about, I mean, I can't dispute that could be 100% true. By having one ETF, you never have to worry about trading or making a mistake, because you look at human behavior, like we talked about earlier. People are tempted to be freaking clowns because they want to, get rich, or maybe they have a bad day or whatever. So if you have multiple ETFs, you could just have a bad day and say, oh crap, this REIT, I don't know, I'm freaking out about it. And then you go ahead and sell it, and you just destroyed your whole, factor thesis. So you really need to be almost like a computer, if you want to, or like an emotionless being, to be able to hold multiple ETFs and constantly stick to that plan. That's why I like VT. It's one ETF. You don't play any stupid games, and you just buy that one ETF consistently. So, but I understand what you're saying. 100%. Exactly. I've heard of that stuff. I did it for a little bit.
That's exactly why I said for 99% of people, just buy VT, because this whole conversation beforehand was how we're rational investors and we're stupid, we're monkeys, we pay attention to social media. I agree. Buy VT and forget about it. There is one further step you could take if you're interested. If you are interested, and you might get 1 or 2% more, but it's a lot of headache, it's a lot of worry. Save yourself the time and just buy VT, like Chris says.
And plus, okay, are you saying the ETF, that second ETF that you're factoring or tilting towards, would that give you 1 or 2% more, or would you have 1 or 2% more cumulative?
It'd be cumulative.
Wow. So that you're saying that 10% is going to have such like an outstanding effect that it basically.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, so like guys, I'm not against
the long term, over the very, very long term, right? Using different data, both using American data, using international data, from all different time periods. Over the long term, you will. I mean, here's a problem. Historical returns aren't representative of future returns. There's a problem there. But within a statistically likelihood, you will outperform VT. But it takes work. We're busy people every single day. Like if you don't want to, figure all this out, just do what Strongman says. Just buy VT. It'll cover you 99.9% of the way. And then also, like Strongman says, have some fun, play with a little bit of some play money, buy the stocks that you believe in. That's astute investing. Yeah.
No, but I've definitely heard of this whole small cap thing. But like at least me as an investor, I'm a long-term investor. Like I don't sell. But even me having these multiple ETFs, it just like I constantly thought about it. It bothered me. I didn't have the temperament to really be like a factor person. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going 100% VT. It took me about a year to finally decide on this. And that was it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Like if you buy 10% small cap value and you buy 90% VT, be my guest. I mean, you might outperform me, but I don't have that worry, that stress, that constant, those thoughts going through my head.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not like guessing yourself every time. But hey, at least you're not LaFufu losing 100% on Voyager, man.
Yeah, there's so many freaking clowns out there. It's unfreaking believable.
Yeah.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes. So unless you want to say anything else, we could do some comments.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for our guest? This is actually a very informed guest, so don't do any stupid freaking questions. Oh, how much do you bench, bro?
Oh, 330.
Ben Felix prefers the Vantis funds over. Isn't Vantis? Don't they have like higher expense ratios though? Like in the 0.2s or something like that. Something like that. Yeah, I've heard of Avantis funds. Like people on the Bogleheads forum, this is like a constant debate. If you ever go on there, like the Reddit or the actual website, people are always comparing the Vantis. Oh, should I tilt? Should I do this? And some people are like diehard fanatics like me. And other people are like, you should factor tilt, bro. It's statistically proven. So, I mean, if you're mostly in index funds, you're going to be fine anyway.
Exactly. I mean, buying VT and nothing else is already going to save you from making bonehead moves like Jeremy, right?
0.25 is not too ridiculous for the fun quality.
Thanks, Julius Caesar. Hail to
Julius,
Kaiser.
are you a factor shill?
No, I primarily hold VT as well. Well, it's called something different here, but
Actually, yeah. So what is it called in Canada? Because like I don't know jack about VT
So
over
it's
here.
really funny. Primarily, it's here in Canada. We just buy whatever it is in US, convert it into Canadian dollars, and then change the ticker name. So the VT here is called VEQT, and it literally just buys VT and holds it and sells it in Canadian funds.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we're very actually the Canadian ETF environment is eons past the Americans in terms of what's offered, lower fees, more diversification, more options. We're very, very lucky here. Tattoo chef, yeah, tattoo taint. Yeah, I am certified in valuation, so I actually know how to value a company and do the spreadsheets and all that fun shit.
I have
And
a
yeah,
question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
So my question is, have you seen my? Okay, so I'm an accountant, right?
Yep.
I'm not. I don't claim to be like this stock analysis valuation genius. I just know how to read financial statements. Have you seen my model, and have you seen any major flaws in it?
I haven't seen your model.
Okay, I might send it to
But
you if you have time. I want you to look at it.
usually the biggest issue comes down to either what your discount rate is. Like if you're just setting it at like, oh, I'm picking 7% because I want a 7% return. So that's my discount rate, or 10% or whatever. That's where there can be issues with your valuation, because then you're then valuing either your own expectations or what the market's expectations should be. That's one area of issue. The other area of issue for a lot of people who do DCF calculators or spreadsheets is their growth rates, or how they calculate what's it called, R&D is another big one, because it can be a little fuzzy.
Biggest, I'm back. Okay. Anyway, I have a 15% discount rate. And the reason I do that is because I'm not going to buy a freaking individual stock, unless I think I can get a massive return. So do you think that's like insane, or like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think 15%, I mean, it all depends on your own risk tolerance, right? Like that's what's so tough. I mean, 15% is really high in my opinion. I would want to be a little bit closer to the average of the S&P 500, because my personal goals are to beat the market slightly. And that's already statistically unlikely to even happen in the first place. So I think 15% is a little too high. I'd probably taper that back to like 13 or 12. But for you and to be comfortable, I would say if 15 works for you, then stick with it. That's what's great about investing. It's so fluid, right? Like do what works for you. And if you become a financial planner, you then know that your position changes through life. When you're very young, you want a higher risk tolerance, because you have more time to make up for your issues. And when you get older in life, yeah, that's maybe then when you might want to start considering dividends. Like you were a financial planner, so you understand the whole life cycle of a client. Things change over time, so it's not one shoe fits all.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm definitely going to send you my model. I want you to tear it apart. Oh, look who's in the house. Tom Nash, S&P versus VT. I'm 40% in VT, as you know, Chris. You should be 40% in S&P. You should be 40% VT, Tom. Okay. What do you think about the S&P 500? You think U.S. stocks are just massively overvalued based on their performance over the last 10 years?
Yeah, this is what's really tough about the S&P 500 is that companies themselves have inherently changed. The S&P of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the American companies who were domiciled in America were primarily transacting and doing most of their business within America, within most of North America. Now, a lot of S&P 500 companies are based in America, so they're on the index, but they sell globally. They are international stocks in a weird way. You could then have a Brazilian company that works out of Brazil that's listed on the American Stock Exchange. So there's a lot of issues that have come up with the S&P 500. Statistically, yes, it is overvalued. But then there are other factors, like when you start looking at PE ratios, now we're moving away from valuation and more towards ratios, which isn't true valuation according to some profs, but we're kind of almost getting back in line with where we were 5 years ago. So again, it's this high inflationary environment coupled with how stocks have performed recently, and now the nature of business and how all businesses can be global immediately and have very low transactional costs. It's a very confusing time. And in the short term, it's all noise, right? Going back to why VT is important, if you just dollar cost average into VT, you know you're going to be fine in the long term because the stock market is a waiting machine. It takes a very long time for the noise to be filtered out.
100% agree. That's what I do every 2 weeks. I buy
Yep.
myself some more VT. Oh, we got a super chat here. You can dance, man. Come on.
Yes.
Great stream, strong man. Enjoy the info. And of course, those in the chat are great too. Yeah, this was actually a really great stream.
Yeah.
You definitely know your crap, unlike a lot of these other freaking clowns on YouTube.
Yeah, it's I shake my head, man. I consume a lot of YouTube. I've actually been watching you for a very long time. I think your streams are freaking hilarious, man. I love that you clap the cheeks of Jeremy on the daily, but I don't know, like I don't know where the future of this YouTube world goes, man. Like this next year, this next 2 years can be really interesting on who survives this culling. I really hope you continue to be the strong man in my life as a weaker man. Hold me through it.
Well, see, the only way I'm going away is if I get banned for making fun of people too hard. Like my intentions are to be on here for the next 20 or 30 years because I know my investing philosophy stands the test of time. Whereas a lot of these clowns, they rode the wave of the bull market, and now they're getting annihilated. The one sad thing is that they have such a large following, like Andre and Jeremy, that even if they totally lose all their money, they still have so many people that they can always just shift to something else, some other freaking grift. So we'll see what happens, man. Maybe the regulators will come and finally actually crack down on some of these clowns. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, just keep screwing people, man. It's whatever.
Yeah,
It's
I
America.
mean, like a 2008, man. All those bankers, they are still doing what they're doing, man.
Yeah, I mean it's cynical, but you're actually 100%.
Yeah, it's like you said, because they make money for YouTube, for Google, they're gonna stay here. Unless there's some sort of adpocalypse again where they somehow damage the integrity of the website and push advertisers away, nothing's gonna change. And I think another YouTuber I like, maybe some of you here have heard about him if you're into gaming. I'm a massive gamer as well. The Act Man, don't know if you've heard of him. He got his entire channel demonetized when he was trying to fight back against YouTube. And he has like 1.5 million subs. Like he's a massive channel. He just got back his demonetization. So now he's monetized. A really rare time of when YouTube, reversed their decision to, cancel somebody for them hurting their advertising dollars. I think that's indicative of the type of treatment that you might experience in the coming future if, like you think might happen, if they can perceive you as bullying these content creators. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a wild time.
We'll see. I may have to, just give up on my YouTube dreams and just be an accountant the rest of my life. I don't know. We'll see.
God, a stable, steady income that's a respectable field. Man.
I know it's sad. Or honestly, what I would probably do is people will make fun of me, but if I was completely demonetized, I would have to do a Patreon. I mean, I have a Patreon. I have like 3 people.
I read the tier, the $20,000 Lafufu tier.
But if I was completely demonetized, that's the only way, I can make any money off of YouTube. So that would probably be like a drastic option. But so far, I haven't had any strikes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's weird. But we'll see. The larger I get, the more likely YouTube will be watching me. You made fun of a grifter that lost people hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. No.
Just put in your description. That's not financial advice, bro. Like
that's all you got to say, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you got to do.
Don't sue me, bro. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This was actually really informative. And if y'all want to go check out the small cap tilting, go check out Ben Felix. I mean, I'm not against it, but if you find yourself tempted to trade in and out of these ETFs, just stick with VT. But yeah, good stuff, man. All right. Any last comments or is that it?
Nah, that's everything. I don't have a lot of social media, so I don't have a YouTube, although I've thought about it. I mean, it's super easy to grift on here. and it's easy cash, but no.
Well, I'm grifting hard, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
coming on again. Cue the outro.